Welcome to
Only Murders in the Building,
the official podcast.
Join me, Michael Cyril Creighton, as we go behind the scenes with some of the amazing actors, writers, and crew from season 5.
The audience should never stop suspecting anything.
How can you not be funny crawling around on a coffin?
No, that's true.
Catch Only Murders in the Building official podcast, now streaming wherever you get your podcasts. And watch Only Murders in the Building, streaming on Hulu and Hulu on Disney Plus for bundle subscribers. Terms apply.
Your kids could get free or low-cost health coverage from Medicaid or CHIP. Even if you've applied before, they may be eligible now. Kids up to age 19 are covered for checkups, vaccines, dentist visits, hospital care, and more. And if they already have Medicaid or CHIP, remember to renew every year. Visit insurekidsnow.gov or call 877-KIDS-NOW. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Welcome back, everybody. Let's bring in our first VIP guest. This is, of course, David Bozell, the president of the Media Research Center, and unabashed, unapologetic Redskins fan. They're not the Commanders. They never will be. David, do you think they'll ultimately go back to that name? Because all I know is I went to the University of Maryland. I have a lot of friends down there that, love the Redskins, hate the Commander name, hate the change of the uniforms. You think they'll eventually just say, screw it, we're going back, and that's it?
I think that they're testing the waters. They got some throwback uniforms coming out this year.
That's right. Without
the logo. I think they'll bring back the logo because it'll look like the Redskins without the logo. And so it's the uniforms first, logo second, name last. And yes, I do think they'll come back.
It's a different culture.
Let's uncancel some canceled culture.
Oh, you just wrote my next column. This is great. Uncanceling all the things that have been canceled. Oh, this will write itself. This will be easy. So obviously I have to talk to you about the story of the week, possibly of the year in media. You can make the argument, except for Stephen Colbert also getting canceled, I suppose. But with Jimmy Kimmel, I keep coming down to this same argument that this is a matter of supply and demand, where the supply was toxic coming from Kimmel and the demand wasn't there in terms of ratings. And when that happens, when you're losing tens of millions of dollars for your employer and their shareholders, the affiliates say, a bridge too far as lying, blatantly lying, intentionally lying about the ideology of the shooter and the murderer of Charlie Kirk. That earns you a termination, and he doesn't lose his free speech like we keep hearing everybody on CNN and MSNBC yelling about, because he could run the Substack and join Don Lemon and Joy Reid tomorrow if he wants and say whatever he wants. So free speech is alive and well. It's just an employer's not going to give him all that money for his opinion anymore.
Yeah, I mean, look, a charitable interpretation of what Kimmel said was that he was badly misinformed about what MAGA was up to last weekend. They were not trying to pretend as if the shooter had anything to do with MAGA. So he was woefully misinformed, or he lied. Now, there's an old adage in the old television business, which is to keep the affiliates happy. And people who work for affiliates have to go to junctions all across the country to keep the affiliates happy. Yes, Jimmy Kimmel has the freedom to say whatever the heck he wants, but he has to keep, from a business perspective, he has to keep the affiliates happy. And I know that's something that we've lost sight of in the social media streaming cable era, but in the broadcast lane, you got to do that. And if you are going to lie or just woefully misinform your audience and then be given the opportunity to correct the record, and then according to Hollywood Reporter, he wanted to go, instead of doing that, he wanted to double down on it.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, the affiliates really have no choice in the matter. There's like 120 markets across the country, and about 60 of them told ABC, no mas. We don't have to deal with this. We don't want to put up with this guy anymore. Our customers are cutting our cord. Right? And so they're in the cord preservation business. The broadcast lanes are. And so they don't want cord cutters. And the way you get to cord cutting is to have to be insulted by some Hollywood comedian night after night after night. Not to mention, Joe, 4 years ago saying that people who were not vaccinated, myself included, should go die outside hospitals.
Yeah, don't get admitted to the ICU. Exactly what he said. He said, "Rest in peace, Wheezy," is exactly what he said. Because he's the Pope of wet late night, and there's nobody more insufferable and pious than Jimmy Kimmel. And we're talking to David Bozell. That's the thing. If we're charitable and we say, well, Kimmel, maybe he's just in this bubble where he's misinformed about who the shooter was and what he stood for. The problem is that since then, I'm sure somebody has pointed out, or he has seen somebody talk about the fact that, nope, that's 180 degrees not the case. Obviously, a trans, furry, loving guy who had a visceral hatred for Charlie Kirk. And again, if you are pro-MAGA, the last person you take out besides Donald Trump is probably Charlie Kirk, because he was the biggest advocate, the biggest activist, and the biggest supporter of the president. So none of it makes sense from a logical standpoint, yet he was going to go back in the air and say this, and then the affiliates heard this and said, that's enough. Dan Turrentine, who I've had on this show before, I've done some Fox segments with him. He is one of the last reasonable Democrats out there. It's like Turrentine and Fetterman, and that's basically almost it. And maybe Bill Maher to a certain extent.
Hank Unger's giving them a run for their money.
Oh, yeah, very good point. Very good point. But here's what Turrentine said, and I see that you retweeted, and I did as well. He said, with regards to Kimmel, I'm reminded of the famous story of Jay Leno versus David Letterman to replace Johnny Carson. Everyone thought it would be Letterman. I included, by the way. I was young, but I'm like, ooh, I like Letterman. He seems cooler. He does stupid pet tricks. Leno traveled the country to meet with affiliates to remind them that his humor was politically equal opportunity, while Letterman's was more coastal and left. The affiliates agreed and pushed for Leno, stunning Hollywood. The rest was history. That's the thing. It all comes down to the affiliates, and what they want, they're going to get.
Yeah, at the FCC and Brendan Carr, from a regulatory standpoint, they have a lot to do with this, in the sense that, and it's a little bit of speculation on my part, but I think this is how this went down. The affiliates calling up their chief regulator, Brendan Carr, and saying, look, what are our options? Okay, because this has sort of gotten away from us over the last couple of decades, where their mothership Disney just calls the shots, and the affiliates just sort of genuflect accordingly, and say, just give us whatever you want to give us. And they started to push back. One of the things that the New York Times called me yesterday, USA Today, same thing this morning. Well, doesn't Jimmy Kimmel have a freedom of speech? Well, yes, he does. But so did the affiliates.
Exactly.
I mean, why does his freedom of speech trump theirs? And look, Dana Bash had Governor Cox on the Sunday before Kimmel went on the air and asked him all of this stuff. Not that MAGA needed to do what Kimmel was suggesting we were doing, because we didn't, because we knew. But Dana confirmed with the governor, among other interviews, that it was nothing of the sort, that he was a left-wing lunatic that had gotten involved in this romantic relationship with a transgender. All of this was widely reported. And Governor Cox said all of this would be outlined in the indictment on Tuesday. On Monday, Kimmel says what he says, and even so, that was scripted remarks. I know he's live, but I don't necessarily think that he is. Not as live as Saturday Night Live is. But if those are scripted remarks, written by a writing team, well, I think, unfortunately, one of the writers is his wife, and they're written by a writing team, production teams, producers, everything, and they all thought this was good. And then to be given the opportunity to correct the record, which he, unlike Gutman from ABC, who had some deplorable comments of his own right, reporting on the indictment. But Gutman should not have apologized on Twitter at 6:30 in the morning. Okay, he should have gone on the air, which is where he made those offensive remarks.
I said the same thing. That was such a weasel move, like 6:30 on an account that doesn't have a lot of followers. Whatever. And by the way, he didn't even really apologize. In other words, he said, "Oh, these were disgusting texts." That's funny, because you said they were touching and riveting the day before that. Right. I mean, how does he have a job? I mean, seriously, I don't want everybody getting fired for one mistake, but this guy's been suspended twice already for bad reporting. So I don't know. I played baseball, 3 strikes and you're out.
Right. Yeah, exactly right. And have the guts, as Charlie would. Okay, if Charlie had made this kind of egregious mistake on the air, or even off the air, he would go on the air to correct it, and have the stones to go on the air to correct it. And Jimmy has a massive apparatus at his disposal to do exactly that. And here's the other point I'd like your audience to understand. Kimmel had every opportunity. If he didn't know Charlie, okay, if he just step outside his bubble for 1 second, if he didn't know Charlie, he had an awesome opportunity to invite a friend of Charlie's, a Megyn Kelly, a Joe Concha, a Tucker Carlson, a David Bozell, and Erica Kirk, okay, to sit down and tell him and his audience what made Charlie tick, what explain the Charlie Kirk phenomenon to us. And he would have broken record ratings. It would have been a terrific interview. And he had every opportunity to do that. He just doesn't take it. Why? A, because of the bubble, and B, he would have to forego an Emmy nomination to do it. And that's all these guys live for.
So true. And Colbert actually got an Emmy this week, which, of course, we're talking about a fixed fight. We're talking to David Bozell. You're so right. When you have somebody on from the other side, that always results in the highest ratings for a show, even when people say, how could you give, that Nazi a platform? But I remember when Jimmy Fallon had Greg Gutfeld on and he doubled his ratings. Like, no politician could do that for Fallon. Nobody could outside of maybe Charlie Kirk, right? As far as having Greg on. It's right across the street. NBC's right across from Fox, easy booking. And then even Gutfeld, his highest rated show ever was when he had Bill Maher on. And again, Bill Maher goes to the White House to sit down and talk to Trump, and there were calls to boycott his show. Why? Because he's talking to the other side, and that's what Charlie did, and they executed him for. So it's the stupidity of these networks, which drives me nuts, like the people that run them. Like MSNBC, David, you remember this is about a year ago. They hire Ronna McDaniel, who's like this milquetoast former RNC head, to kind of give a conservative point of view on MSNBC, to be the patsy, basically, like somebody who they probably would do, gang up on. She lasted 48 hours. She only did one interview because Rachel Maddow and Chuck Todd and everybody at that network said, we can't have this person here. We're about protecting the truth. What? They did that to her, and they did it to Chris Licht over at CNN when he said, hey, why don't we have Donald Trump on for a town hall? And then Anderson Cooper goes on the air the next night and says, I know it was disturbing what you saw last night. I don't blame you if you never watch this network again. I'm sorry. If I ran these networks, you're gone at the commercial. You just told our audience never to watch this again because I put on the leading Republican candidate. It's insane, yet everybody keeps their jobs. I mean, well, I shouldn't say that. The executives keep their jobs, but there is more of a cleansing going on these days, right, David? When you see Don Lemon is gone, and Joy Reid is gone, and Chris Liz is gone, and Jim Acosta's gone, and John Harwood's gone, and even like Taylor Lorenz or Jen Rubin or Glenn Kessler, if you're talking the print side, there seems to be a reckoning happening at this point. And the best part is all these people run the Substack and they all have conversations with each other, which basically makes them feel very comfortable, I would imagine.
Yeah, or Blue Sky.
Blue Sky.
Jeff Bezos came to the same conclusion. Smart businessman. One of the brightest business people that this country has produced in the last quarter century. He puts out his opus about the Washington Post at the beginning of the year. And I don't want to misquote him, but I'll paraphrase it. He essentially says in his letter, we've lost the plot. We're not speaking to anyone on the other side of the aisle.
Yep.
Through our reporting, and we've got to get back to a more balanced, more fair approach, and give these guys give the right, essentially. I'm paraphrasing again, a little bit of a fighting chance to get our message out. And so even Bezos came to that conclusion. Hence why Taylor Lorenz, doesn't have a job anymore at the Washington Post. And there was a girl who ran to Blue Sky with some insulting comments at the Washington Post this week, and also got fired. So you're absolutely right. These are more business calculations, right?
Yeah.
Look, everyone wants to say like, oh, well, Jimmy Kimmel got fired for jokes or bad jokes. No, he got fired for lying. And if he wasn't lying, his bubble is such a left-wing blue cocoon. He just doesn't know that what he said is patently false. And so that's why he's suffering the fate that he suffered. And look, yes, there are ample opportunities, but at the end of the day, these affiliates want to preserve their business, and their constituents, their customers, are saying, "Stop beaming this guy into my screen. I'm not paying for this any longer. I'm going to cut the cord, and I'm going to go to Charlie's network. I'm going to go to Joe Concha's streaming podcast. I'm going to go to Tucker's network. I'm going to do other things to be informed and be entertained."
That's right. There are options, finally.
Yes, there are options. Yeah, finally.
Plenty.
Yeah.
My favorite stat, and then I'm going to give you the last 30 seconds. Colbert, in his 10 years, had Bernie Sanders on 21 times, Elizabeth Warren 16 times, and Tom Hanks 14 times. Something is wrong there when that's what's going on. Jake Tapper 12 times, by the way, because he's exciting. But the last 30 seconds, you've been on the job for the Media Research Center for a few months now, taking over for your great father, Brent, who spent some quality time with in the nether regions of the North Sea not too long ago. But so what is what is the mission statement of the Media Research Center moving forward, and how do you like the job so far?
I love it. I mean, 2 days after I accepted the position, we defunded PBS and NPR, and then had Terry Moran fired. So I should have just mic dropped out of there, so
I'm good.
I done my bit. But it's an awesome place to work. The men and women who report through the elevator doors every day understand that. Yes, these networks' ratings are down, but they are getting their message out through the Googles, through the Apples, and millions of people still believe these things. This is why 33% of Democrats believe that the shooter was MAGA, because of what Jimmy Kimmel said.
Indeed. Newsbusters.org. That is your must-go-to bookmark site for all the wonderful studies that David has cited, and I probably quote on a daily basis on Fox. It writes all my material for me. So thank you for that, David. I'll have to probably give you an in-kind return at some point. But thanks for having us again. Go Redskins, and we'll see you again soon, David.
Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.